Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are in the world at the moment. Welcome to today's webinar. We've had a fantastic response to the subject today, and I think our panelist, Pilar, will get some great insights from her during the webinar. So we've got people from all over the world. As I mentioned, there's people now coming in from Canada, US, UK, Middle East, Dubai. Okay, that's great. We've had a fantastic spread. We've had a couple of hundred people register for the webinar today, so I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, we seem to be fine now. Okay, let's get started. For those of you who don't know me already, my name is Mark Ingram. I founded Real Talent Matters in 2017. We're an international search and recruitment firm that specialise in the energy industry. So we provide executive management and senior technical and operational appointments on a global nature. I would say in the last 3-4 months, we have done a lot of remote providing remote specialists and remote placements to our clients. So there's a changing work environment and a changing pattern. I think we're going to see emerge and emerge very quickly. Obviously, on that topic led me to speaking to Pilar, and she is obviously an expert in her field, which is why I asked her to come on and be the first guest speaker in our series of we'll try and take a deep dive into remote work over the coming weeks. So today's subject, as you know, is on visible teamwork and remote teams, asynchronous communication that fuels motivation. A little bit of background, if I can introduce Pilar to you. Pilar set up Virtual Not Distant in 2016 in order to facilitate the journey for managers, teams and organisations towards Office Optional. She's worked with small teams, helping them set up their online ecosystems, delivered training both online and offline, and piloted new ways of working. She expands her network and her knowledge through the 21st Century Work-Life podcast. She's a CIPD member and a member of the International Association of Facilitators, where she co-hosts the England and Wales chapter podcast, Facilitation Stories. So Pilar, I hope you can, thanks for coming on today first. Really looking forward to this, and hopefully you can hear me loud and clear.
Excellent, I can. Thank you very much for having me, Mark. And hello, everyone. There is a lot of stuff going on in the online space at the moment, so I am delighted to have you here with us. Catherine says Pilar is the expert. Well, we'll see, because what is quite interesting is that, of course, I set up the company to help people plan, to transition to remote, to do this as a thoughtful, in a thoughtful way, as a change program. And of course, what happened? None of that has happened. We've all had to now, yes, good coffee, Mark. We've all had to now suddenly go remote. So one of the things I have found is that a lot of companies, and I don't know if you agree, Mark, is that a lot of companies are spending a lot of time on video meetings, because that's the kind of communication we know best, which is synchronous communication in real time. So companies that have been working in a distributed manner for a while use a mixture of asynchronous, non-real time, and synchronous. So that's majorly what I'm going to talk about today. So Mark, I'm going to ask you to switch off your video, just because if not, I'm going to be distracted throughout. Sure,
hopefully I can work that out. I wasn't meant to appear.
Thank you very much. So I will start, and the thing, before COVID, when I was working with companies and with teams and working with managers, I was thinking, okay, what is different to leading a remote team than leading a team in the office? And a lot of the basics about feedback, about being a good coach, also a good mentor, more of a facilitator than a supervisor, that still applies in the online world, but technology allows us to have a little bit of a different tilt on it. So this is where visible teamwork comes in, which is about facilitating the communication processes in a team so that we can keep working together, be productive, stay connected and engaged. So I'm going to start sharing the screen now, because I do have some slides. So the important thing, let me just see if I can do something here. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good.
That should work. Okay. So one of the important things when we're looking at introducing new processes, new communication process, is that we go back to basics in how they are affecting us as people. So I thought, let's look at motivation because we want to make sure that the communication processes we introduce do not destroy intrinsic motivation, the motivation that comes from within to want to do a good job. So let's go back to basics and then let's start layering in all the processes using the technology, etc. But we've got to understand human nature. So I'm going to whiz you through self-determination theory, which some of you might know. You might have read the book Drive by Daniel Pink. And then I'll look into more, how do we use the technology, or how do we just use processes that don't involve us talking in real time as well as real time. What I am not saying is let's not have any meetings. What I'm saying is that too many meetings are going to burn us out, and there's other ways of communicating. So self-determination theory comes from the positive psychology movement, where we basically think that people want to do their best, but things get in the way. And this is from Deci and Ryan. I think it's from late last century, 2020. And it really is about looking at motivation and personality in a broad sense. So what they suggest is, through a lot of research, that we want to do our best if we have a sense of autonomy, if we have a sense of competence, and by that I mean that we are doing a good job and learning. I'll go into a little bit of detail into each of these in a second. Autonomy, competence, and a sense of relatedness, a sense of connection. That's broadly what it is. And what they say is, intrinsically, as in from within us, everyone wants to do a good job, but stuff gets in the way. So let's have a look at autonomy. What do we mean by that? Well, it means that we have a bit of control over what we do. It means that we have options. And the more we feel that we can design our work, that we can work with whoever we want to, that we can pick our schedule, our place of work, whatever, that we can go into depth into work if we can, then the more we want to do a good job. Also, if we feel we're good at our job. So if we feel like we are doing the job as best as we can with the resources that we need, or that we're learning. And I think this is really important because to continue learning seems to be part of human nature, and it makes us want to be the best at work. And finally, a sense of relatedness. And this one's an interesting one, I find, because it's not as simple as just liking people. So in a team, we might feel related to each other, either because we like each other or because we know that our work matters to other people. But also, of course, we might feel a connection with the organization's purpose. If you think about why people choose jobs, why they stay in jobs, sometimes they stay in jobs because they like their team. They hate the tasks, it's really boring, but they love their team, and that makes them want to be a good team member. Or the job might be okay, but you know what? The organization's purpose, I'm really, really connected to that. So it's like all human behavior, it's not that simple. So in a nutshell, that's the theory of motivation, is that as long as we feel we have is really interesting, as long as we have a sense of autonomy, competence, and relatedness, we want to do our best. So when you hear how do you motivate people in a remote team, well, you create the environment for the motivation to arise. You create the environment that doesn't stop the motivation. to pick a very simplistic example. You don't call them up every day or email them every day to see if the work is done, because sense of autonomy is crushed. That's a very simplistic example, but actually one that has been happening with tracking software, etc. That can decrease the sense of autonomy unless we've bought into it as team members, unless we've said, you know, you want to install a piece of tracking software to track my productivity in my computer? Okay, as long as I have access to it, I'm happy with it. That's fine. So you can see that it's not that simple, and something that I think a lot of managers have learned over the past few months is that the better you know your team members as individuals, of course, the better. And this is not new to remote, but it really does help when they're away from you, because then you're not second guessing a lot of the time and you don't need as much of a constant contact with them. So, of course, when one of these elements, autonomy, competence, relatedness, increases, there's a risk that another one decreases. So this is another thing we need to look at with our communication practices. So, for example, one very obvious example of autonomy is, yeah, great, now everyone can work from wherever and whenever, something that maybe in a year's time, most of us will be able to experience again. But let's just look at this in the long run. So great, we can work from wherever, whenever. The downside of that is that maybe people can't get hold of anyone, that you need help quickly and you can't get it because some people are working one schedule, others another. So you've got to see where the balance is. So something that's good for autonomy might not be good for competence, and you've got to be balancing those out. Right now, of course, what many companies have done is the sense of autonomy for people who've had to work from home has decreased. And I mean, our sense of autonomy has been squashed. So some companies have said, okay, well, you work whenever you can. We'll just set some checking in times, but pick your schedule, or you decide how many days you're going to work today, or you decide your workload, or you decide your prioritization. And I think that it's very interesting right now, and also in the long run, but right now to see which bits of autonomy we can give back to our team members and to ourselves, because we're also human and we're also driven by sense of autonomy, relatedness, and competence. So really specifically, what can we give back? So I've talked for a bit, so I'm going to do a little experiment. Something that I really advocate for is as you start to move into the online space, you need to try stuff out. And I personally, so I've been using Zoom for 5 years, as long as the company's been going, but I only use certain features because I'm really comfortable. So I'm going to use something different today. I'm going to do a new share. So Mark, if you want to put the link in the chat so that people can access that. 1 second, yeah, before I do that. So what I'm going to ask you is you can either follow the link that Mark has put in your chat, or go to menti.com, that's menti.com, and type the code there. If you can't access that, then use the chat. We're not going to overcomplicate this, but it'll be nice because then we can see a beautiful graphic of what you at the other side are thinking. For me, it's important, sense of relatedness, connecting with you. So the question is, it will come up in the Menti. It's on a scale of 1 to 5, how do the following things help you to feel connected to team members? So for example, A is being able to see what others are working on. Is that a 1 or a 5? How important is that for you? So as you you can move the slider. Let me see if I can do a new share to show you. Yeah, okay. So here you should have, you should see that there's a slider. I can't move it, but you can probably slide it through. And the idea is, oh, that's the idea. Wonderful. Sorry if I shouted into the microphone. But the idea is that as all of you start to answer this, we get a sense. So let me just go back for a second. Yeah, if I go with that, then if I do that and I share, hang on, wrong share, stop share. I've stopped sharing altogether, but I will go back to the keynote. There we go. So while you're doing that, while some of you are sliding, I wanted to share something that I've been thinking of, because when we're looking at relatedness, a lot of our, by default, if we're used to working in the co-located space, what I'm seeing in organizations is let's have lots of coffees, lots of online meetings, and there's a lot of potential in finding ways of connecting the organization at different levels. So something that I'm looking at the moment is setting up a podcasting for connection services for organizations. And what that means is people within the organization create a community, and they create episodes every 2 weeks to share with the rest of the organization. And this is about retaining a sense of belonging with a dispersed workforce. And this is not about the top management talking all the time, being interviewed. This is about anyone, somebody in marketing sharing a productivity tip, or someone in accounts sharing how they're doing working from home, and pulling this all together in an audio file, which is so shareable. So when we're looking at relatedness, there's a lot of different stuff we can be looking at. Okay. So was I sharing my screen then? Probably not. Okay. So let's see what we've got. So if we go back to the Mentimeter, we can see, and tell me if you can't, Mark, we can see that different people are driven by different things. So how do these things increase your relatedness? We've got quite a lot of 3, so something in the middle, and then something quite big. So we can see that having regular opportunities for social chat is important, but actually, look at this, not as important as being part of strategic planning sessions. So I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to the presentation. Aha. It's not working like I wanted it to. All right, good. But that's tech. Yeah, that's tech. So bearing that in mind, that different people respond differently to different things. And also bearing in mind that sense of relatedness, that feeling a connection with others comes in a lot of ways. Social and through the work, we can start thinking about designing our communication system online. Things to bear in mind before we start. We've got synchronous communication processes, usually meetings, phone, one-to-ones. We've got the asynchronous, which is the non-real time. And what I'm going to be sharing, the principles of visible teamwork, are principles that you should be able to adapt. If you're only using video conferencing and email, you should be able to work with that. If you've got the whole of the Microsoft 365 environment, including Teams, Planner, blah, blah, you can use that. If you've got Slack and Trello, you can use that. So it's really about adapting to what you've got. And noticing that synchronous communication, a lot of the time, gives us a lot of clarity. If most of the time, if our internet connection is good, etc. Asynchronous communication can give us flexibility, because asynchronous is all about, I send you a message and you reply at some point when you are ready to deal with communication, unless we've agreed a faster reply time. Maybe you can wait 1 day, 2 days, 3 days for an answer. That means that I go to it when I'm ready to answer, and not when it's come in, not when a message has come in. And actually, I've also put clarity, because in some cases, some people will make themselves more clear in writing or through a long audio rather than in a meeting or a real-time conversation. Again, it's quite a lot of diversity. And if you have large teams, you will have even more diversity. So when we're looking at our communication process, we have to look at what tool are we going to use. And that could be a video meeting, again, as I said, collaboration platform, an office, once you've got access to it. That's a tool. It's got a very specific function, and it's better for some things than others. Meeting rooms and audio. Something that we rarely use are recorded audio, asynchronous. So instead of writing you a long email, why don't I record a 1-minute voice message where you can hear my tone of voice, where I can even explain more in less time and even more clearly. We need to agree on what we'll do when and how often. And as managers of teams or leaders in this process, we need to role model the behavior. So we know that it's not enough to say, we're going to do this. Someone needs to be championing it. Someone needs to be role modeling, or else it doesn't quite come up. It doesn't stick. So that's part of the new leader is to make sure that the communication processes are being given a chance. And underpinning all this is the communication charter, or the team agreement, which is about deciding what we're going to use and how we're going to use it. What's happened now and why it's been quite, well, apart from the context, why it's been so daunting with the communication is that we've gone, let's use all this. And now we can go back and say, right, what do we need? When do we need it? And what is best? And now let's agree, especially when shall we reply to each other and what tool shall we use when. And finally, the last thing to bear in mind is the task interdependence in your team, by which I mean, how do the tasks fit in with each other from each team member? So is it a matter that you all have a task and you get on with it and you don't need input from anyone else, just maybe some feedback or whatever? That team is going to need a different set of communication systems than one where it's sequential. I have to wait till you finish my task to be able to do mine, and then the next person is waiting for me. Or if we're really collaborating, like we cannot do our work without each other. So for that, you'll need different types of visible teamwork. So I'm gonna just stop for a second. And with that in mind, it's really important that we think, what information do we need from our team members about our work? What is the information that we need? So I'm going to stop sharing for a second my screen, and I'm going to get you to another of these presentations. So let's see. So it's the same thing. The same thing, but this time I just want you to type some words. So Mark, well, sorry, my words are going. The link is the same as it was before in the chat. He's put it again, fantastic. And once you get there, just click, what kind of information do we need to have from our team members? What kind of information? And let's see whether we can get a little word cloud going, because we need to know what we're looking for before we start designing. Let's see if we get something. Never done this one. Don't forget to press submit somewhere. You did it well before. I wonder if it's Mark. Can you see it in the link?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Can you type something?
I'm just doing it right now.
What information do you need, Mark, from your team to have about your team members and their work, or your collaborators?
I'm presuming we can put in more than one word.
Yes, just press enter afterwards, I imagine. Results are hidden. Why is it hidden? Aha, here we go. There was something there, you see. One thing that I've learned with any kind of tech is if you move your cursor around stuff, things pop up. So that's always good. So what I did, I don't know if you can see here, because there might be a Zoom icon. Bottom right, there's a figure. So I just hovered over it and it came up saying, oh, results are hidden, you need to type age. So I typed age. Okay, so we've got some stuff. Excellent, thank you. If you can't use the Minty, then put it in the chat. You're very welcome to contribute in that way. So what's holding them up? Progress, motivation. This is all status. Specializational skills, excellent. Openness. So all of the timescales, data, constraints, loads of stuff. But you can already see that this stuff is going to need different ways of communicating it. So bear that in mind, bear that in mind. Okay, I'm going to go over to the other sharing now. All right, I'm going to play that. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you very much. The nice thing of doing webinars where people can interact is that you get a sense of what's going on in people's minds, and it stops me from assuming lots of stuff. So thank you for that. Good. So, so remembering all that, and remembering that as managers of remote teams, we become a facilitator of the teamwork and the role model. Let's have a look at the principles of visible teamwork. So there's 3, and one of them is deliberate communication, which is about what information we need from a person. So some of the stuff that you put up had to do with what the person is like. It could be about their work. There was a lot about the work, which is why work visibility is the biggest one. And there's some stuff that we need around planned spontaneity, which I will come to later, because spontaneity is something that's very difficult to recreate in the online world. So let's have a look at deliberate communication. So what are the kind of things that help us to the information from team members? Availability. And that is not just about whether they're in a meeting or not, because the nice thing when it's planned and you've got time to get it right, the nice thing about working away from each other is that we can take periods of time to do some deep work, some focused work. And we should be able to signal to our team members, look, we're working, but I'd rather not be disturbed at, whenever. And we can mark this, and this might change from day to day. So we should have a system whereby we communicate that. Emergencies is a different thing, but we don't always need to be completely available to each other. Most of the time, depends on the kind of work, but you know what I mean. So for example, one way of doing this is very easy. This is a company called Infinite Red. This is from an open blog post. They just have a channel in their Slack, which is like a big chat room. But this channel is only what they said, hellos, goodbyes, availability. And this is a company where they have different schedules. So if you have a schedule which is a very strict 9 to 5, then something like this will be more important for that kind of, when are you doing deep work and when are you up for a chat or for a quick consultation. But if you have a truly flexible setup or even an international global setup, something like this is quite interesting. So that it's like checking in with each other, and it's open, everyone can see it. And it's just about communicating availability. Our context, that thing that when we are in the office, we come in and we go, oh, had a rough night, okay, not to bother them today or not to ask them that favor that I need. But when we're working away from each other, a lot of the time, unless we have a system, a process for doing it, we don't communicate it for whatever reason. So you can also, this can be something that goes in your availability channel. It's, hello, logging in, by the way, the visitors were over yesterday, so my head might be all over the place. That's it. We don't need more information, but it gives us information that we're missing. And again, this can be done somewhere like Slack, but it can also be a daily email if you don't have that kind of platforms, or it can be a quick check-in if you're having a meeting. So most of this is about asynchronous communication, but you can apply it to whatever suits the team. But I think this is something that async works very well for. Around context, when you're leading a team in an organization, especially, team members start to lose information about the organization unless they are very active in internal networks, unless they are in lots of projects. And usually the manager or team leader, because of the nature of their work, has more access to this information. And again, if you don't have a set way of doing this, of communicating that back, it will get lost. So again, this could be one email a month. It could be a blog post that you write internal for your team. It could be something in the middle of a meeting. It doesn't matter. But it's better, I think, if it's asynchronous, so that it can be, one, communicated when the time is best, maybe in best timing, and it can be accessed when people have time for that. And finally, the mood. It's interesting to have ways of sharing just how we're doing today. Again, for some teams, this might not be relevant, but for teams who work very closely with each other, this might help to avoid just a little bit of miscommunication that is just because we can't feel each other. And again, this is something that if we don't have a deliberate system to do it in, or we've set aside the time at meetings to do it in, we might miss out. So those are the 3 bits of deliberate communication. And again, you need to find a way, you need to understand if you need this, and then what technology have we got available that can help us to do this. this is the meaty work visibility chunk, because as we've seen when we saw that word cloud that you contributed to, most of the stuff was around the work, because that's the information we need to know in our day-to-day. So when, if we go back to how we've used the online space traditionally to communicate with each other, there's been a lot of email done. And email is great. It's a fantastic form of communication. We'd be lost without it now. However, when I send an email to Mark, and only Mark and I can be part of that conversation, and it can be that it wouldn't be of use to anyone, but it could be that it is. It could be that actually, if Fred, Lisa, and Maggie had heard it, that was just the kind of information they needed, but they didn't know it. Or it could be that I ask Mark for a piece of work. He doesn't have it. I don't know that Lisa's got it. Lisa sees I've asked Mark, and she goes, "Oh, I've got it." That's like when in the office you overhear. So now we have the technology to have some of these conversations in the open, so that instead of just the person that we think needs to know it knows it, other people can also overhear. And this is mainly done through platforms like Slack, Microsoft Teams, but it can also be something that we do once a week, where we just review in our team, as team leader, as team member, go, okay, what conversations did I have? I've made a note of them because there's too much information to have in your brain. What might be interesting for the rest of the team to hear about? And that deliberately, and then you communicate it however you want. So this theme of open conversations can be taken literally or less literally. But it's really important that we have an agreement around how we're going to do this, because what we don't want is for all the communication to be open all the time, because that creates noise. So we have to decide in the team, we have to have a conversation about what is important. And this is where implementing this kind of stuff gets interested, because in order to implement it, you have to have a conversation about what you need to hear about from your team members, what parts of their work is important, etc. This is the most interesting thing. So ways to have open conversations. So one is, I will talk about this in a second. This is from something called Trello, which is just a Kanban board, but this is what's called a card. And cards in the Kanban boards, in the online Kanban boards, these cards are task related, and it's where we hold the information online about what we're working on. So for example, in our podcast, we have one card per episode, and the whole information about that episode is in that card. And I talked to Ross, who's our podcast polisher. I only talked to him via these cards. We're never on the phone twice in like 5 years. We've had coffee once together, but we have all our conversations there. Maya, who does the show notes, might not need to know a lot of this, but sometimes it's good for her to see it. Connection, remember relatedness. Also, sometimes it might explain if she sees that something's wrong, she might go back to the card and go, what are they talking about here? So we have sequential tasks, sequential interdependence with this, where I do a task, then Ross, then Maya, and we pass the task along. So this works very nice for us because we can pick it up as the days go by, and we don't have to have a meeting about anything. We could, but it's just the way we work, we don't. This is Microsoft Teams, the Conversations tab. Again, you can have conversations. I might be working with my colleague here on a document. Instead of having a conversation by email, we have it there in the open. So that if something happens to me, so that if someone new joins our team, in case someone wants to know what we're going on about, so what we're going on about, I want to know what I'm going on about. In case someone wants to know what we're working on, it's all there. So again, it gives us autonomy because we can talk to each other when we're ready. We learn because we're watching other people, and sense of relatedness. We know how their work fits in with us. Plus, I'm really nosy. So when I have time, I just go through all the communication. All right, so that was that was open conversations. Visible workflow. Someone was talking before about the status of the work. So this is what I was referring to, the Kanban boards. Again, this is Trello. So each task is represented by a card. And then you decide, how you tag it when it's ready. You can have a due date on it. You can have who's doing what task. Like there's just two of us, but you can see the little circles with people. They're the owners of the task or the people working on the task. This comes a lot from some of the agile practices. And this is wonderful as a manager or a team leader, because you can know the status of each task without having to ask people. So if you need for your job, because of your personality, for whatever, to know up to date how everything is going, this can do that without squashing your team member's sense of autonomy. You can just go and look at it. Plus, it's open to the whole team. So again, this is our team space. This is where we communicate what we're working on. So this is Trello. Microsoft Teams has Planner within it, or Microsoft 365. There's lots of these kind of tools. And if you don't want to go there, then use Excel. Again, all this, this is about having the workflow visible so that we don't need to be in real time. So that when we are together in a meeting, we can ask questions. We can bring our doubts about about something that we're not sure of. We can share how we've made a decision. We can have the really good quality conversations rather than status reports. Or we can just look at this and go, you know what, all of that, that one worries me. Can we talk about that? So you've got that, and it's there all the time. And you can update it faster than if you were waiting for a meeting. So we had open conversations, visible workflow, and visible work, which will be more relevant to some people than others. And here you've got to think about the level of trust in the team, the level of confidentiality of some of the work you do, and how much it can be visible. So all of these principles, you've really got to look at them very carefully within your context, which is why I've gone back to principles when I'm working with people, because it's just the range of people working remotely, even before COVID, began to be so big that it's very difficult to be doing things one way, like any teamwork. So visible work can be about working in the cloud, so in Google Docs or in Microsoft in the environment, instead of on our computer. Traditionally, we'd open Word and we'd work there, and when we're ready to share, we send it in an email. This is a different mindset of working and requires really good internet connection all the time. So we're still not there yet where I cannot bring that up. So that's something you've got to bear in mind. But it's about working more in the open. The feedback can happen in the document with all the comments. Look at all the pictures. Every time I go to that document, I see my colleagues, and that's a point of connection. For me, that's really important. For other people, forget it. They want to have the virtual coffee. For me, I really like that. And it gives way for more of a conversation, and you can track it. And again, it's another way of open conversations, actually. And the visible work also arises and can also help us see the thinking, because we are away from each other, and sometimes we want to share what we're thinking. And if we don't have a system or something set up, it's just that extra energy to do it. So if you've agreed in your team that every 2 weeks you will either post a long form text or record a little bit of audio or record a little video, there's some applications that make that very easy, just to talk about what you've been thinking about work during the week or the month, even some of the challenges, etc. Then that is also very good use of technology, because you can learn a lot from that. In creating those pieces of communication, you learn a lot about your own thinking. So it's quite interesting reflection tool also. Again, levels of trust. If trust hasn't been built yet, or if we're a little bit edgy at the moment, maybe not great to have something as a recorded, but maybe it's a good idea. So there's all of that to consider. And another way of, you can mix some of this stuff depending on the technology and the kind of work. So this screenshot is from BaseCamp, another tool, there's so many of them. And this is prompted by the program, because something that's very nice in these tools is that traditionally the manager will go, have you done that? What did you do? Remember to do your status. Now you can have bots doing that. And it removes some of the friction between a team manager and a team member. Some won't like it, but it's amazing. As an anecdote, someone who I met through the podcast, Laila, can't remember her surname. I hope no one sees it. From Mural. She speaks a lot. So if you ever Google Laila Mural, you'll see. She shared one of the podcasts that she used to go into the collaboration platforms and say, "How is everyone?" And people would reply, "Yeah, okay," but she didn't quite get much from them. She changed it so a bot would ask. And suddenly she saw that people were giving a lot more information to the bot than to her. So any psychologists in the room are very welcome to comment on that later. But I think it's something to bear in mind. And that, of course, will not be the same for every team, but it's worth considering. So something like a checkout at the end of the day or the end of the week that you can all go somewhere and put a record. Don't think of it like a to-do list, but I did this and it brought this. I had this conversation and it prompted this thinking. So it's not about saying I did this, this, and this. We've got the visible workflow for that. It's about going a little bit more deep into our process. And this is just a reminder that it doesn't all have to be written. I think I've already made my point. You can sketch. If at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is go onto the computer and write another long thing, write it on a piece of paper, take a photo, upload it, and people can click on it and try and read your handwriting, or do a sketch or do an audio. I think it's time to start experimenting more with what we've got and making it more ours, not what is there already, not the way that the programs have been designed. What have we got? We've got phones we can record really quickly on. We've got Post-its we can hold to camera or we can take photos of and put up. And this can help your team engage, team members engage more, because people can start to find their own way of communicating. They're more comfortable and more personalized. Go back to motivation, autonomy, competence, relatedness. Give them, and role model some of this, I think. So, loads there. Let me just check the time. Okay. So we're doing all right. Lots of dangers here. Lots of things to look out for, mainly things like make sure you're using notifications wisely if you're using any of these programs. I would say as soon as your team starts to use one of these collaboration platforms or project management tools, learn and make sure everyone knows how to adjust their notifications, because you don't want this to create noise. You don't want people to be pinged all the time or thinking that they have to be checking everything all the time. The team agreement is really, really important. So finally, this is the shortest one, plan spontaneity, because we all need a little bit of spontaneity in our lives. When pre-COVID, this was the thing that everyone went, oh my God, I'm going to do that. When I did any workshops or whatever, they always, virtual coffee. I had never thought of doing that. And now, of course, a lot of people have adjusted this in some shape or form. So this is great for synchronous. You can also have it as an asynchronous thing. You can also have a space online where you just talk about whatever. And it's more than the social chat. It's about the fact that anyone can go in there at any time and say whatever. It's about I wonder what's in that channel. Who's written something there? What have they said? What are they celebrating? Don't forget to have somewhere for celebrations. And if your team is spread over different time zones, you have to have this, because it could be one point of connection for a lot of people. This for me, I don't like these channels, but I know a lot of people who do. So again, if you're leading a team or even managing a team or introducing some of this stuff, check in with yourself, check in with your preference, and then go beyond it and ask your team, of course. You saw, what is this? It's about meeting in the work. A lot of these cloud programs, when two people are working in the same document together, you can see it. And this is spontaneous. Like, oh, they're also working there. Hello. And maybe nothing happens, and it's just that reminder. So again, profile pictures, very important. And finally, we come right back to the end, is changing, letting people know that we're free for a chat, which won't be happening every day all the time, but having times when we've agreed that we just get on with the work, and unless something is urgent, please don't disturb me. And I'm not going to check all those things that we've been talking about, but there will be times when, okay, I'm doing some light work, I'm replying some emails that weren't important, my status could be happy to chat. And then if someone sees my status is happy to chat, they might say, should we have a quick 10-minute phone call or coffee or whatever, or a chat? So it's worth doing that. So virtual coffees, meeting the work, and availability. So for all of these, as I was saying, you will need to decide the best tool. Sometimes it's the available tool, how you're going to use it, and what behaviors you're going to need in the team, and as a role model, what you're going to need to be doing. Honestly, introduce 1 or 2 practices, ignore everything else, agree, especially around response time. That's where most friction can take place. Don't always assume that lack of response means non-interest. Sometimes people haven't seen messages, etc. So when you start to work with this, work very slowly, review, and set a time by which you're going to decide if it worked out or not. I've been talking a lot about asynchronous communication because this is what's needed at the moment as we try to get everyone away from being online all the time in meetings. But it really, it really should be a mixture. And some teams will fly only in asynchronous, maybe meet once a month. Other teams will want to meet up every day for 10 or 15 minutes. It will be important for them. And then, of course, have more. But really try and implement asynchronous practices, or else this will not be sustainable. Remember, too, your task interdependence. So how are your tasks related to each other? And that will help you to decide which of these processes you want to introduce. And remember, what are they doing to your sense of autonomy, competence, and relatedness? I think we could swap these around, and then we have ARC, which I quite like. So that's it. We've got time for some questions, yeah, or some comments. Comments will be lovely. And also, sometimes this just will not, a lot of this will not work, but I think just the principles, and especially the principle of just because we're not together, it doesn't mean we're not connected, and it doesn't mean we cannot be learning from each other. So a lot of the time, increasing that sense of autonomy, even to how people access team communication, can have a big effect. We can still feel competent. We can still feel connected. So I'm going to stop sharing in a second, but please feel free to connect, listen to the 21st Century Work-Life podcast, which is really great. And if you need any help with training managers of remote teams or helping you transition to a more sustainable way of remote working, or some podcasting for connection, then hopefully you know where I am. So Mark, let's see.
No, that was fantastic.
Excellent.
Thoroughly enjoyed that.
Good. Have we got any questions from the floor?
No, we'll just take any questions now. There's none through yet. I think I have one for you. In fact,
great.
I had 2 or 3, but I think you've covered the topic that well. But a lot of questions I've had have been around the productivity for external and around sort of client-facing functions. So you've covered a lot today in terms of internal. Would you I suppose apply same best practices to external calls, external communications? I'm thinking from if you're thinking,
so it depends, Mark. So if you're thinking collaboration, so working with other people outside your, there's a whole load of conversations around that. And what tends to happen is that you talk and you need to agree these same kind of things. Okay, yeah. How are we going to know what we're working on? In fact, let me go far. Remember that very first question in the word cloud.
Yeah.
What information do we need to have from each other? And maybe that's the first conversation to have with collaborators or clients. What information do you need from me? And then from that you go, okay, how often? How frequently? And then you start to say, okay, well, this sounds like if you want something daily, it can't be meetings.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So how are we going to do that? Okay, we only do email. Okay. Are you open to trying something else? Maybe, or no. Okay, well, that's your conversation. So when we're working with other people, we've got to see where they are at, but start with what information do we need and what's the best way of, and challenge some assumptions.
Yeah.
Andy has a much easier question.
Yes, I was going to say, can you see Andy and Phil? I've got some questions.
Yeah. So he asked if I have a favorite collaboration tool. Yes, I do, and it's Trello. I love it. I really love it. It's a Kanban board. It's free. I still have the free version. And what I really like is that, again, I can see where we're at as a team, where the progress is of a task, and I can have all my conversation there. And I love the app on the phone because you can move the cards from done to do and stuff like that. So I really like Trello. Yeah. What's yours, Andy? Stick it in the chat. Have you got one? And Phil has a question. Great to hear about what you have in place, and looks like a very friendly way of working. What did you find the most challenging part to set up? Ha! Phil, the most challenging part is not the setup. And I'm sure that some people who are on the webinar, and maybe even, I don't know, maybe even you, Mark, that setting up is not the difficult part. The difficult part is sustaining it. So yeah, we set something up and we're all up for it, and then stuff gets in the way. We struggle with one thing, we leave it, and we stop doing it. So I think the most difficult part is continuing some of that. Anything that goes against people's habits. So I'm going to share an anecdote with you, Phil. How in fact, it links both questions. How I came across Trello was Vahelis, who's a friend of my husband's. He was developing a game, an app, and he had a developer team, lots of young people, and he set up Trello. And he said, okay, when you do your task, go there, mark it done, whatever. Okay. So people would email him and say, I've done this. It's like, no, you need to put it in Trello. So he would pick up the phone. It was only a few years ago. He would pick up the phone and say, great, thank you for telling me. Can you put it up in Trello? And sometimes it's about that. And now, actually, Phil, you've made me think. The open conversations has been challenging, because I recently am part of another collection of people, and they recently set up a Slack. And the whole reason of having something like Slack, which is like a big chat room where you can segment the conversation, is exactly what I was saying, that you ask a question and other people see the question and benefit from it. But I was still getting questions via email first, instead of put them there where everyone can see them. Then I started to get private messages in Slack where it was very easy questions. But what you might find, or what anyone who's starting with this, is that we're not used to asking questions in the open all the time. And that past experience, the way we work, sometimes is like, well, if I ask this in public, even if it's a simple question, I'm not sure. And it's in writing, which makes it look more formal and perennial and permanent. So I think the open conversations is tricky. So I think always starting with something like Trello, which is just about what are you working on right now? What's the status, blah, blah, can start to get us to it's quite a vulnerable way. You have to be quite open and make yourself vulnerable to work in this way. It's really not about the tech. It's about using the tech to expose a bit more of yourself. I think it's fascinating.
Just one question, Pilar. How do you spell Trello?
I put it in the chat. Trello. If you are stuck in the Microsoft ecosystem, which is great because Microsoft 365 has everything, one login, everything. It's called Planner there. And all it is, it's set up so that you can say, what am I working on? What am I working on next? What have I done? That's the simplest version. It's lovely.
Yeah, that's great. One other that's coming in, or it's just dawning on me as well, Pilar. How should these, the check-ins we touched on earlier, I suppose, in a group and one-to-ones via phone calls, video chats, or does it really depend on the situation, I suppose, in the teams?
So the check-ins that you do as a one-to-one and the check-ins that you do as a group are completely different. Yeah. Because they get you ready for a different kind of conversation and a different kind of relationship. Maybe. There's always a maybe. So for example, if we are all getting on with our work and we don't need to really be talking to each other throughout the day, then asynchronously is a good way. Having a platform or even an email. You know, if you're using email, then use email. It can get a bit heavy inbox. So, but just decide what you need to know and when you're going to do it. And you don't have to comment on it. If someone says, oh, I'm feeling a bit rough, well, if you want to pick up the phone and ask them if they're okay or send them a private message, fine. But there shouldn't be any expectation that you're going to engage in a conversation around that. Unless as a manager, you think you should, which is really important also. So it's really complicated.
There's so much to it, isn't there? I know, and I think it's just a period of change we're all going through.
Yeah.
I'm just checking the chat box. There's a time.
There's nothing else, Mark.
Yeah, you must have covered everything.
No, or not enough. Yeah. So I think, it really is about trying to simplify it, but all of this is about experimentation. It's about adopting a new mindset, and it's about finding ways of staying connected without having to be together in front of this, which gets really tiring. Yeah,
that's true. I think we've all suffered from that. I know I certainly have. I think extended days and lots of online calls. But listen, it's been absolutely fantastic, Pilar. Thank you very much for coming on and talking about that today. And just everyone just to repeat, you know, what Pilar said. If you know, both of us, I suppose, in our areas of expertise, more than happy to help. If you can reach out to myself or Pilar directly, we're more than happy to come back to you on that. So, thanks again. Hope everyone enjoyed it. And Pilar, we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you in the chat. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.